Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to Leading Edge Cricket. Today we're back way sooner than we thought was going to be, as the fifth test, which we've just done the preview podcast for, has been cancelled. I'm Rob, this is Rich. Rich, let's break down exactly what has gone on. Why aren't we seeing any fifth test match cricket between India and England in this massive series?
Disaster, mate. What an absolute nightmare. So when we did the preview last night, we had read and we had heard that negative tests amongst the squad, or the playing squad, should we say. There was obviously Ravi Shastri and some backroom staff that tested positive, but everything pointed towards the test match, the fifth and final test match going ahead, starting today in Old Trafford. The weather has been fine in Old Trafford for most of the day as well. What an absolute disaster this is. It's not the way, obviously, we wanted this series to end. We'll get into where this has come from and our thoughts on it in a minute, but it's just awful. You've seen people traveling, like getting hotels night before, all ready to come to the game. It's just, you couldn't think of anything worse, really, could you, at the moment, with regard to cricket? But we live in COVID time, so inevitably something like this was going to happen. It's just the fact that it's the last test and it butts up so tightly against the start of the IPL. There was never a chance that there was a way of delaying or reorganizing this fixture once the IPL was obviously moved. We'll get into that influence in a bit, but that's just the facts, isn't it?
It's just the facts. I think let's put a fan's cap on to start with, and then we'll start delving into different details. From a cricket fan, you're disappointed because if you're going to the ground or you're watching it at 10 o'clock in New Zealand or 10:30, 11 o'clock in England, it's the excitement of a fifth test match in a massive series that has been played really hard in a decent spirit at times between two really great cricket teams that's producing some great cricket, some great moments. That India's won the big moments throughout the series. That's why the 2-1 up, and you just wanted the finish. It's like going to the cinema a little bit. And you get to the point where something happens and you're just there at the end waiting for the payoff, and the payoff it's not quite going to come.
It's like having to leave the cinema 10 minutes early, isn't it? You're absolutely right. If you were going to the game today, you're absolutely good. I was really, really pleased to see one tiny nice thing come out of it. The Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy was being played in Sale today between two of the ladies' teams, and they put a tweet out this morning when they heard it had been cancelled, and a load of England fans or fans of cricket piled down there. And I've seen photos of people all in the fancy dress that would have been at Old Trafford watching the ladies there. So that's a nice little touch, I thought. The ECB are going to have a look into this impact on fans. Obviously, they're going to refund all the tickets, which is good. But I don't see how you could set a precedent for anything else to refund anything else. But something has to be done. When Tom Harrison and his cronies at the ECB are getting 2.1 million in bonuses, then I'm telling you, there's some money left in that kitty, isn't there, to make things right here. We can't just blame India for what's happened, at least. Well, you know what I'm saying. I don't even want to blame India completely anyway, and we'll get into that. But as a cricket fan, absolutely got it. I was ready to watch it. The storylines for this test, I was talking yesterday about Virat Kohli was on the verge of a special knock, certain that would happen. Hasib Hamid returning to Old Trafford after the few years that he's had of going into the wilderness and coming back into the test arena. It would have been magical to see him opening the batting, especially on day one. It's all nothing now. Test series is gone. India will be on a plane home as soon as possible. It's the World Cup, and then it's the Ashes, hopefully. And this is something we need to consider before we or anybody else criticise India too much. England last year postponed the end of a South Africa tour. England are arguing or discussing, debating, whatever you want to call it, with Australia about how to relax certain regulations so they can get family over. COVID regulations, obviously. So again, we can't kind of look at India and say, maybe a few mistakes have been made. Maybe you wanted to do this. It's all your fault. We just need to be a little bit mindful, I suppose.
I think, to be honest, it's just the times we live in. And the world has drastically changed within an 18-month window. We all know that if you've been exposed to someone with COVID, the next day you probably will test positive, and it might be your day 3 or day 5 test where something happens where you start testing positive, which is day 3 of the test match, by which time you've been in contact with so many other people. It's just a different world we live in. And I don't feel there's enough governance around what to do in these situations, which puts teams in the position where they need to, or players in a position where they need to start making decisions for themselves and force boards and bodies to start going, hey, we don't want to play this game. We don't want to do this. It is a long tour. They've been through a lot. They're about to go into biosecurity IPL, which is next level, or a whole bunch of them are. Then they're going to the T20 World Cup. Then they're hosting test matches from November onwards. It's literally non-stop. And
full on.
It's surely going to get to the point where more and more people, Ben Stokes' situation, I feel, is a little different with the passing of his father. But guys are going to be burnt out. Guys are going to be mentally done. If I was an England cricketer and I'm an Indian cricketer or a cricketer in general, and you're spending all this time away from friends and family all the time, living in a hotel, the last thing, at some point, you're going to reach your tether where you go, I need a break from this. I need to stop. And because of the window, and I'm blaming the 100 for making the window as hard as what it is. I'm making that perfectly clear. Just exacerbates the situation, and there's no downtime. It's too hard on these players, and you know what it could be like if your physio's got COVID. How many people see a physio?
Yeah,
most of your team.
Yeah, it's probably worth just mentioning what seems to have happened. So if we roll it back a little bit, what seems to have happened, Ravi Shastri had a book launch on the 31st of August, easy for me to say, 2 days before the end of the fourth test. By the end of the fourth test, I believe he tested positive.
Yeah.
He then passed it. I think a couple of physios got it. So Ravi must have been having a couple of massages or whatever it might be, or he's gone for dinner with them. However it is, we joke. So there's one physio then working on the bodies of extremely tired and hard working and worked hard Indian cricketers. And then I believe, I might be completely wrong, but I believe it was that physio then also tested positive. So the fear went through the camp. Yes, there was negative tests from everyone before this test match was supposed to start today. But like you've just said, it's not just day one, is it? It's also day 2, day 3, day 4. If we get halfway through this test match and suddenly 4 or 5 players have tested positive, then what does that mean for the rest of the test match anyway?
Yeah.
So they were playing with fire from the off, wasn't it? And like you said, once it got through the physio, everyone's going to need to use that physio at the moment. So it was just inevitable. I think we'd got to this point. You make a really good point. The reason this test window, the 5 test match window of this tour, was pushed into middle of September nearly to finish, 15th of September or 14th, it would have been finished, was because we had the 100 in advance of it. So yes, we can kind of allocate some blame to the scheduling of IPL. And I think there is definitely a mindset of it's the 5th test, it's the end of a tour, we've been away a long time, we've got a lot of things coming forward. So people are going to be looking and thinking, I don't want to jeopardize my involvement in the IPL. I don't want to have to isolate or go into, before I get over there or when I get home. So you can understand it, can't you? But if the 100 wasn't there, then we wouldn't be talking too much about the IPL. If this had happened in the 2nd or 3rd test, I don't think it would have meant that India are going home. I think it would have just meant a kick down the road. But it was just such a tight summer window, isn't it? And the ECB have got to take their fair responsibility on that one.
And let's be clear as well. BCCI asked the ECB to accommodate an earlier test match start than what this is, and the ECB said no because of the 100. So if ECB want to start throwing things at the BCCI, I'm not saying they are, but if they do. They're not clean because they've made a decision that it's going to run this tight and there's no contingency.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I appreciate IPL can't really move it either because the World Cup's coming up. But then I suppose there's too much money involved, isn't there? IPL got hacked down halfway through. There was an argument at the time that postpone it for the rest of this year, go again next year. But they wanted to keep playing it. So it was still a choice, wasn't it? I guess it sponsors, it's the income that makes that has forced that to go ahead. So it is what it is. We are where we are. Yes, there could have been earlier test match, maybe, but I don't know. There's, no matter where you look at this summer of cricket in England was just not right from the start. Nothing worked, and there was no room for contingency. There was no room for anything going wrong. And obviously we've had quite a few things go wrong this year. So that's where we are.
One more point on that. Money talks, mate. Money talks. The IPL is worth 300 million to the BCCI. This test match is worth 20 million in home broadcasts and approximately 20 million, etc., and everything else tied together in overseas rights for the ECB. Money talks. BCCI wins because their pockets are bigger on this, if you ask me. It's the more important economic factor to Indian cricket than it is to English cricket. Just like people not going to South Africa to play cricket, slightly bigger, and West Indies, Pakistan coming to the UK because the English cricket board's bigger than their boards. It feels like a little hierarchical step ladder of money.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how it shakes out, because obviously ECB and BCCI, yes, they've been negotiating. Yes, they've been in talks to see what could happen. Obviously, they cancelled. It was interesting as well. When they first announced it, the ECB, they said they'd forfeited. And then it was very quickly retracted, and another statement was issued to say that they couldn't field the teams that was cancelled or whatever. Now, BCCI have also said that they would like to find a schedule or a date in the calendar, perhaps next summer, when there is a gaping window of no Test cricket. And I believe India are back over some ODI, some white ball stuff next summer. Yeah. So there is an absolute glaring opportunity for a one-off Test at Old Trafford. I think this, out of 6 tests next summer, 3 of them are in London. It's like, give me a break. It's Old Trafford have they've had a bit of a nightmare last couple of years, obviously, with no fans attending a Test last year, and obviously this year getting cancelled. So something needs to be given back to them. I hope that they can find a window to replay this Test. I don't know how you would say it's part of this series, but you could still allocate it to the World Test Championship, couldn't you? So I do hope that they do that, and they don't then have to argue about forfeiting or whether it was 2-2 or 2-1. Look, India have won this series 2-1.
Yeah,
it's simple as that.
I think that's fair. The World Test Championship changed its point system to mean it's allocated on a points percentage of games played.
Right. Okay.
Which is very similar to the English cricket leagues in England, which makes more sense because no one plays the same amount of games, right?
I was going to say, I told you the other day, I've not quite got into this World Test Championship malarkey yet.
But there is some precedence that's been set. So 2016, and it's not the same. I'm making perfectly clear this is not the same. It's the only example I can find online of something else happening. And in 2006, Pakistan refused to play because of ball tampering allegations. Not the same, but it's the same in terms of there's a game not taking place. And for that game, it took 3 years to go through the courts until the result of the game was fully identified.
Not the same. We're not that bothered.
It's the only example I can find.
I hope nothing like that happens.
Let's be honest. England aren't going to win the World Test Championship. We're not going to be up there.
Yeah.
Do we care? India's won the Test series. If it was a 4 Test match series, India's won it 2-1.
Yeah.
It's not like we're full ahead of steam in great form.
Yeah, there's a good article Andy Bull wrote in The Guardian. Blame game begins, but are India the right target for your anger? It was just a good article that just talking about how we want people might want to be allocated, and we're talking over things and we're saying, look, 2-1 to India, it is what it is. I think this morning I would have probably approached this a little bit differently, but I've had the day to just kind of cool off from those initial reactions. And just kind of take stock a little bit. And, we can look at Ravi Shastri at that book launch. Apparently the COVID regs weren't particularly tight, but there's nothing in this country is anymore.
No, we're led by the Freedom Day, mate. You're good to go.
Oh, please. Nonsense. Yeah, it's about as good as Brexit Day. Oh, I shouldn't say the B word, sorry. But nobody's behaving perfectly in this country anymore. Yeah. So why should we expect this team? The bubble wasn't particularly a tight bubble. Players were allowed to go out. We used their own judgments. The ECBC, Tom Harrison, he was at the same event as Ravi Shastri, so he cannot criticise what they've been doing. So we can't really look at that. IPL, we've already spoke about. We can't really blame that. It's frustrating of how it's been rescheduled, but if they were going to play it, it had to be when it is.
Yeah,
we can't really blame anything else because obviously the 100, we couldn't really pull it forward for that. So we can allocate if we want, but there isn't really anyone we can really get frustrated and angry at. It's just an annoying situation. It's the fact that it's COVID. It really is, isn't it? And I would hope that a lot of people throughout the day have gone from that position of, this is the worst thing in the world. I'm so angry at India. They're running off because they want to go and play the IPL. When we're in Australia, let's go 1-0 up in the series. Win the first Test at the Gabba, and then go out for have a night out and try and get COVID, and then call the rest of the series off. We've won the Ashes. I don't think that's going to happen. But yet, there's lots of people we can try and direct our frustrations, anger at, but I don't think there's a particularly clear target. If you want, there's probably a little bit of blame to go around. People could have done things a little bit differently, been sensible. Let's say, was it necessary for Shastri and etc. to go to something like that? And if they were, wouldn't it have been more sensible to make sure it had extremely tight regulations, even though the country's not? Yeah, we could argue that, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It is what it is.
It's the world we live in, mate. And there's not a lot we can do. There's not a lot we can do about it. The only thing that I've found over the last 18 months as a whole is a resistance of people to change, to what's going on. And that's something that the ECB definitely need to look at, is how they change and evolve and grow. And if this is the world we live in for the next 5-6 years, this is going to happen again. There's no two ways about it. So we need to look how we evolve. What contingencies are in place? Do we have more players touring from squads? How do things work? I'm not saying I've got the answers. I'm saying you just can't do everything and do everything poorly.
Yeah, but absolutely. I saw that point again about the squad sizes, and I said they brought bigger squads on these tours because of COVID. But if the squad's all together, it's irrelevant. You could bring 30, but if they're all in the same environment, being treated by the same people and mixing, then it doesn't matter how many people there are. So, I think the biggest thing for me is the fact that the BCCI only gave about 2 hours notice. I think that's probably where the anger comes in. And again, these things, the right decision in the end might have been made. I think the players would have liked to have played. There was some I've heard that were concerned about jeopardising their potential involvement in the IPL if they were to contract COVID. But the decision had to have been made earlier. That's probably my only take. They should have stayed up through the night, and this should have been out, 11 o'clock last night or something like that, just to make sure. I think that's the biggest issue, isn't it? I've just got something in front of me. Just senior officials at the ECB were privately fuming in the decision by Indian players to call off the much anticipated fifth test less than 2 hours before the toss. If they are fuming, hopefully it is at the timing and not the decision. But it's going to go to the ICC, isn't it? They'll make a decision on how to look at this game, whether it is a forfeit, a cancellation, a postponement, whatever they want to do. But a great series. I think we just need to focus on that as well. Great series was had.
Yep.
India played well. England had their deficiencies. That's why they lost 2 games of cricket. They had 100%. Opportunities earlier on in the series as well to either draw or potentially win one of those games. So it is what it is, as we keep saying. Do we want to? I mean, we can probably get to other stuff another day. IPL, obviously, World Cup's around the corner. We can touch on those. Yeah. But for me, we said in the preview, I think it's just worth saying. We've not had a man of the series or anything like that, or players of the series for both teams. But for me, Joe Root has got to have won it hands down. I don't know what you've got to say about that, and whether or not you can pick an Indian player as well, just to put a nice bow on it.
Root for England is head and shoulders. 30% of the team's top 7 runs, incredible, and
Sharma, Bumrah.
Yeah, it's actually quite difficult to do. I think Sharma probably takes it.
Yeah,
just on the sheer weight of runs at the top of the order and giving them stability. He's probably the man. You could make one of the names in my head was KL Rahul, because he's been consistently scoring some runs, not massive hundreds, but some runs, and other people have had moments. Thakur's had his moments with the bat. Bumrah's had his moments with the ball. But I think the difference is multiple people in this Indian team have had moments. Pujara's had a couple of moments in the 3rd and 4th test match now. Kohli's had moments in the 3rd and 4th test. It's a very good team. I did see the best option to try and resolve who won the 5th test.
Yes, go on.
Boundary count.
Yay! Please tell me England have won.
No. England 233, India 246. So it's official. India have won 3-1.
Bloody Sibley's fault again, isn't it?
It is. It is Sibley's fault. It all comes back to Sibley.
He never hits boundaries. Oh man, that's too funny. That would have been hilarious if England had won on that. I'd be straight on Twitter now, firing some Indian cricket fans up just for a giggle. Yeah, that's 3-1 then, surely. Or 2-1 and they've won the series. We'll call it
3-1. But it has been a great series, mate. We look forward to the IPL starting. That's going to be good fun leading into the T20 World Cup. Then, interestingly enough, New Zealand in India in November and December for 2 test matches, which could be an absolute obliteration. There's a word of the Kiwi team that is currently got its second team playing in Bangladesh and getting absolutely smashed. So lots of cricket to look forward to, lots of new upcoming podcasts where we'll probably do a full series review of this, I reckon, and we could do some player ratings around how guys have gone, what we think.
Yeah. Yeah, give us a bit of feedback on that as well. Let us know who you think the stars of the series have been, and those underperforming players on both sides as well. To end though, I just want to, we do need to get together again soon because there's so much going on. Obviously, we spoke about IPL, there's World Cup coming up. World Cup squads are starting to be announced at the moment. There's been some bigger missions, haven't there? Like Ben Stokes, etc. Rashid Khan, Afghanistan, big questions. Yeah. But I just want to end on one note, mate. There's another player in the world that has hit 6 sixes and over recently in an international. Jaskaran Malhotra from the USA smashed 173 not out against Papua New Guinea. 16 sixes on his way to registering his country's first ODI century. Go USA, mate.
USA.
Well, your missus was her family, or was she born in Papua New Guinea?
She was born in Papua New Guinea, yeah.
There you go. She's got destroyed by an American cricket team. So. They're coming for us. If America set their mind to it, we're all in trouble.
That's a nice way to finish. So, guys, let us know what you think about the whole fifth test. I don't want to say debacle, but conversation that's going on about whether it's right or wrong and what should happen with the result. It has been a great series. We look forward to all the cricket coming up in the future. Maybe some more 6 sixes in and over. You never know.
Yes. Stick with us, people.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.